veins were this wide.
Oh, we don't want this.
Because I thought stents were about as thick as this wire, right?
That's what I thought. Probably not.
When you put that catheter in, do you have to stretch the vein?
No,
That's the
the veins are large, much larger than that catheter.
they're large, okay.
So why are stents so small?
What's that? Why what?
Why are stents so small? If the
This is not going to where stents are going. Stents going to much tinier vessels. I am nowhere near where the stents are. I'll explain that.
See, that's.
Okay,
that's why I
so
asked
the reason for
question.
that is this. You want, guess I will. So so you're asking your questions a little bit. I have to take a sip of this first.
That's okay.
That's what he's got in.
That's right. So
Pass it around.
yeah, that's exactly right. So when you're talking about stents, I'm nowhere near. You don't want to be near where the stents are when you do these things.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah. So the stents relate to, that's the vascular system of the heart, and then if you look at the aorta and you look at the ventricle, okay? So there are tiny vessels, the coronary vessels, that come out of the aorta and supply the actual heart muscle. We're nowhere near that's the arterial system. So it's a very different area, even though it's in the same thing. So there's blood vessels that supply. These vessels are very, very tiny. That that's what supplies our heart. And so if there's blockages in those, that's where a heart attack happens. You are with these systems, you are in the cavity of the heart itself. You are not in anyway. You are in the venous system. Does that make sense a bit? A little bit different? So you are going in the veins. So you don't want to be putting anything in the arteries, otherwise you would have to be on thinners and such. And if you have a pacemaker, you don't have to be on thinners for that. So this is it. This is the actual circulatory system of the heart, in the sense that it's the actual blood supply for the heart muscle itself, not the cavity of the heart. That's where we're putting the leads and everything else within. We're touching the heart muscle, but we're touching exactly what we're doing is we're touching the heart muscle, with the exception of that fourth lead. But we're putting it in a vein, not in an artery, because there's one vein that wraps around the heart.
There's a picture of
So the stents are very tiny because these vessels are very tiny, and the plaques build up there. Okay. Any questions?
Veins and stuff in the heart.
This
Pacemaker outside the heart.
Right.
This is just a guy.
That's the guy that pushes
Oh, he
it.
steers it.
That's how it gets
Was
it.
there any
Okay.
chambers?
So, all right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to bring it all together. Slides, right? So. So this is what I've been drawing. I think my picture is prettier than this one. So they talked about, we talked about this. We talked about these black lines are the specialized conduction wires of the heart. And so this is where the electricity starts. This is for pacemakers. And it conducts down to the lower chambers. We talked about the main highway, and then its bifurcation. We talked about earlier the fact that if you have a block in this branch, then you have a delayed activation and such. And so that's what the conduction system is. And so these are like medical terms. And so what can happen, you can have a situation where sinus arrest is not a cardiac arrest. It's when the sinus node is not firing frequently enough, so it's slow. You can have sinus bradycardia, which means when you're sleeping, your heart rate slows down. This word, chronotropic incompetence, I have to roll my R's there. What that is that if you run up a flight of stairs, your heart rate is not picking up the way it should. And don't worry about that last one, it just doesn't. Okay, so what's the sign? What is the sign? What is the? This is a more. It's a prettier picture. This is where the bunch of cells in the heart that fire are, and then here it's pausing. So it's going on, and then just it pauses. So if this is long enough, somebody can pass out and then come back. They will hit the deck, but they will always come back. With VTAC, you don't come back.
That's
Unless you have pacemaker,
Unless you have a defibrillator.
defibrillator.
Syncope.
Yeah, you get syncope is, it's not one disease. You can get to syncope in many different ways. That's the thing. So that's the job of the doctor to find that out. So this is what is this? This is the sinus node beating very slowly. Because okay, each one of these is a second. Actually each 5 of these is a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is like this person's heartbeat is like 30 beats per minute according to this. Okay. Right, this one here, this guy is running on very rough terrain. It's kind of very jagged. but the thing is that the point being that the heart rate is supposed to pick up as you're running. Okay.
Slip and fill.
All right. So this is showing something else. It's kind of like flashing. It's like a strobe light. You can have seizures if you look at it too long. But this is what the situation that's happening here is that the electricity is not conducting down to the bottom chambers. But in fact, it's not supposed to because it's going so fast. But this is the idea of a slow heartbeat that occurs on account of conduction block, electrical conduction block. Okay. So we talked about the pacemaker and the leads, and this is the pacemaker device. It will clarify that, and then there are 2 wires that go down. We're talking about 1 hour exactly now. So then there's one goes to the top chambers, one goes to the bottom chambers. Next. And this actual pacemaker has circuitry, logic circuitry in it that will analyze, did the heartbeat happen? If it happened, what's the timing cycle that we talked about? That's the battery of the pacemaker. Nowadays it lasts anywhere from 6 to 8 years, 9 years, even longer than that sometimes. And depending on how it's used. And that's the connector, which we just, you guys can pass around.
It's over there by
Yeah. So yeah, you can see there's a receptacle and a connector. And this shows the lead inside the heart when it's touching it. Because it's the muscle, it goes to your question, why is the lead so huge compared to a stent? Well, because you're sitting in the cavity and the musculature of the heart. So there are several ways of putting the lead. This is an active fixation lead. I don't know how that picture is taken, but I'll just go over it. So here's the pacing. So pacer spike, QRS complex, pacer spike. So this is just to illustrate what happens when you're capturing the heart. This is somebody that is conducting with a slow conduction. Pacemaker spike, nothing happening in the heart. Pacemaker spike, it captures the heart. Pacemaker spike captures the heart. Types of pacemakers, we talked about this. So there's a single chamber pacemaker that goes in the bottom chambers of the heart, the recording and the pacing system. Dual chamber, top and bottom, and 3-lead system, including the quad system, although there are still 3 leads, where you have a lead that goes on the left side of the heart. Notice they're not showing in the cavity, it's in the vein, on the bottom chambers and top chamber.
Now, is that just one of those going in, or do you have more than one?
3 leads. You actually have 3 wires going through the veins. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Why do you ask that question? It's a good question. Why?
I was just wondering.
Well, I mean, if you think about it.
Because, you
Yeah.
have one in, and how do you go through the same area again with another?
Yeah, the vein can accommodate up to 3 leads. You don't want to have more than that, but yeah, you can. Because obviously, you probably are thinking, I don't know, that if you put enough stuff in the vein, you're going to block the vein.
That's what I was thinking.
That can happen. Usually, it's a vein, it's not an artery.
Right,
It
it's
forms
a
other
vein.
channels.
Right. You don't want the artery to go in there.
No, we're not in the artery, yeah.
Question, coronary artery disease.
Yes.
Do veins also become that plaque?
Coronary artery disease is these vessels that are getting plaqued up. Now, the vein, if somebody has coronary artery disease, do their veins get affected as well? Generally not. But the veins that are used to bypass, because they take segments of veins, and like if you have a blockage like this, if this is partially blocked and they can't open it up, so they jump it from here to there, past that. That's what the bypass graft is. Sometimes it's a segment of a vein, and that can get placketed, yes. Why does it do that? I don't know, but it does do not want that. But so the thing with veins is that if you block a vein, it will form other channels to go back. That's not a big deal. It's not cutting the oxygen supply off. Now it can cause problems because if you block all pathways, then it's not good, because then the hand swells up significantly, and transiently it's okay. So that can create other problems. But so the veins are not as much of a emergency as the artery, because the artery is sending the oxygen, and we're breathing oxygen, we're burning oxygen, fuel. That's how we need that oxygenated blood to be supplied to our vital, to the muscles, to everywhere else, because you are actually, burning carbon atoms, you're burning carbon bonds and creating energy. So that's single chamber, yeah. So this is like it's just like a pictures. It shows, this is a nice pretty glass transparent heart. It shows where the leads are. You guys know about this now. Seriously, you guys can implant devices after this. So 2 leads. This is on Xray. On Xray. Okay. You know how this works. And this is what guys. Can someone tell me what this is? What is this here? What is this?
It's an X-ray.
It's an X-ray. But what is it showing?
Showing the leads for the.
Yeah, but what kind of leads? What kind of a
That's a
pacemaker
quad.
is it? Huh?
Quad.
It's the quad lead, yeah. This is not a quad lead, but that's what it's a 3-lead system.
3 leads.
And
I
if
see,
this
yeah.
had 4 dots on it, it would have been a quad
Oh, I
lead.
see, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a bi-V system. It's just the 3-lead pacemaker. Yeah. Oh, so this is historically, you guys this was like supposed to be pacemakers, past, present, and future. What was it?
Yeah, that's right. That's a
Yeah.
picture, yeah.
Very nice, yeah. So I just thought I would just dedicate at least one slide to that. So the first concept of pacing actually was invented in the US, Paul Zoll, and even though the first implanted pacemaker was in Sweden. And Earl Bakken, which I was talking about, the metronome and such, this was the first external pacemaker that was wearable pacemaker, was by Earl Bakken, who was the founder of Medtronic, and that was implanted in Minnesota. There's a picture of a guy who actually was walking around with that. But just to let you know how, about the human spirit, or how we do things and how we perpetuate for what it's worth. This is actually the first pacemaker was made by Siemens that was implanted. And the first pacemaker lasted 3 hours actually. Something was a glitch on it. The patient had to be resuscitated, and they gave him another pacemaker, and then he went on to live. He lived in their picture. You can go on the web. His name was Arne Larsen. Yeah, and so he had 26 device replacements. He died in 2001. His condition was not a heart attack related problem. He had complete heart block. What's complete heart block? It's that situation where the conduction between the top and the bottom chambers of the heart is affected. Okay, and then so let's talk about devices. So you just saw that pacemaker. It was 73 grams and 35 cc's. 35 cc's is a volume, right? Nowadays, pacemakers are 2 grams and they are 1 cc. So we don't have a pacemaker like that here. I can pass these around.
Mine's over there by Huggy. I think that one they said was 3 ounces.
Yeah, that's a defibrillator. That's a defibrillator. That's not. These are pacemakers.
No.
There aren't any pacemakers that are defibrillators are that size. That would be huge. That would be amazing. There's no such thing. I don't know if they will be able to do that. They may do other things, but not that. So these are examples of other defibrillators. So you can just pass them around.
So how big is the latest model defibrillator?
The latest model, that you're just getting it there. One of those are there. Yeah, that one.
This one? This is a
No,
pacemaker.
that's a pacemaker, that's a defibrillator.
That's why it's so much.
Pretty comparable.
So why can't they bring the size of the defibrillators down to the size of the pacemakers? Because of the
Yeah,
batteries?
it's a good question. The reason is because when the heart is going to get defibrillated, it's getting 700 volts every time. And to do that, you need capacitors and a larger battery. And only recently, since 1993, that they're able to even miniaturize pacemakers, defibrillators to what they are, because the form of the energy that was delivered had to be changed for it to be efficacious. The energies were previously in the order of 900, 1200 volts you had to deliver, and so the devices were bigger. They were in the abdomen. We had to tunnel the leads down, or even the epicardial patches. I went through my fellowship through all that. I witnessed that, so it dates me. But so that's why you cannot. It's very difficult to reduce the size because you need a certain amount of energy to defibrillate the heart. The pacing require much less energy. And so, yeah.
What I noticed now that these are St. Jude. Is there a difference, I mean, in the Medtronics, St. Jude?
Oh, difference?
Yeah.
They're very comparable, or Boston Scientific. They're very comparable. There are differences in diagnostics. It's not in reliability. You would think it's a difference in reliability. That's not true. All of them have very reliable devices. The diagnostics are slightly different. There's slight differences in diagnostics, but they're quite comparable. And I'm not saying that because you have St. Jude or somebody that's been trying. So what's the future? This is now, but we don't do this a lot, and I'm not really sure. This is a primitive pacemaker, but it's 2015. So the pacemaker is a leadless pacemaker. It's about the size of a quarter, and it's inserted in the cavity of the heart, and it's put in contact with the heart muscle. The circuitry, the battery, and everything else is contained there of the pacemaker. I wouldn't want to have one of these yet. I personally wouldn't have any pacemaker because then you have to remove this. Or you just get multiple of these once the battery runs out. So
It'd be really harder to remove
it is hard because the body will form a fibrous tissue, but technically you can. So if you guys have more questions, that was my talk. Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Very nice.
As this has evolved, was there ever a question of infection or rejection of these devices?
Infection, yes. Rejection, it's very uncommon, very, very uncommon, because of the fact that these are in the casing is titanium, and they are made from materials that the body does not recognize. It's difficult for it to recognize as foreign, except for its mechanical presence, which means it will form a coating around it. But there are individuals who may be allergic to, rarely, to nickel or some of the alloys that are used. Although this casing is titanium, this would be strictly titanium. So titanium is not, it's inert. And so but infection, yes. Infection is a huge deal. That's why we're very, when we put these in, we are sterility is of the utmost importance. Much more important than during a cardiac catheterization procedure, because it's just like an orthopedic procedure. When you get a foreign implant, sterility is very, very important. So we give antibiotics before, after implant for 3 days. Yeah, prophylactically. Very good.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
You're gonna get a card or anything with your name on?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did.
You didn't bring any?
No, I didn't. I will.
There might be some. There's some in the hospital.
Well, the way I figure it is, if you don't need a pacemaker, you shouldn't get one. So I'm not advertising myself. It's not like, hey man, I want to have a pacemaker. It sounded really good.
I want one too, they got one.
All my friends have them.
Yeah, right.
I thought you were very thorough.
I have some cards here, actually.
Very thorough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
usually need him when he's masked up.
We